Alright, this video is going to be about organelles involved in building proteins, which is a huge deal. And we're also going to talk about protein synthesis, or the creation of proteins, when we get to sort of our DNA unit. Ribosomes are going to be the site of protein synthesis, that creation of proteins, synthesizing, creating proteins. Okay, ribosomes are found attached to the rough ER, which we haven't talked about yet, but we will, or they can be floating free in the cytoplasm. And both ribosomes, both on the rough ER or floating free, are the same sort of ribosomes. There's nothing really that different about them. They're produced in the nucleolus, which we discussed in our first organelles video. And the other thing that you need to know is they are also found in prokaryotes. They are not membrane bound, and therefore this is sort of an example of prokaryotes can have organelles, they just can't have membrane bound organelles. And so they do have ribosomes because they will create proteins. The endoplasmic reticulum, or we'll also call it the ER, is the next sort of step in building proteins. So there are going to be two types of endoplasmic reticulum. There's the rough ER and the smooth ER. The rough ER looks rough because there are ribosomes on the outside, and so proteins are created at the ribosomes, and then they leave the ribosomes and go straight into the rough ER. And so what the rough ER does is it makes and modifies proteins. And so in this picture, this section is the rough ER. Let me get a different color. This section is the rough ER, and there's a little bit of rough ER over here, and you can tell that it's rough because of all those dots on the surface. Those are ribosomes. Meanwhile, you might notice that ribosomes, also those little dots, are sort of free-floating in the cytosol as well. After leaving the ER, proteins will mostly go to the Golgi apparatus, which we will discuss before, and again, of course, they travel there using vesicles, mentioned in our second video. The smooth ER, on the other hand, looks smooth because there are no ribosomes attached to it. So here we have the nuclear envelope, the rough ER, and over here we have the smooth ER. And again, it looks smooth because it has no ribosomes attached to it. The smooth ER contains enzymes that will do some special tasks, and it will make lipids. The smooth ER is also associated with detoxifying the body of sort of drugs and alcohol. And so there's actually a lot of smooth ER in the liver, and it turns out, I believe, alcoholics have more smooth ER because their bodies have felt the need that they need to detoxify more alcohol than normal, so they've created more smooth ER. And last but not least, in terms of building proteins, again, we started at the ribosomes where they're actually built. Then they go to the rough ER for some sort of modification of proteins, and then proteins will go to the Golgi apparatus. And Golgi will always, by the way, be capitalized. A Golgi apparatus looks sort of like a stack of plates, sort of stacked, one on top of the other. The Golgi will store, modify, and package proteins. So you can sort of think of this as like a package facility, like FedEx, or something like that. Golgi apparatus, you can sort of think of it as putting on the finishing touches, wrapping it, packaging it, and then transporting it where it needs to go. So molecules will be transported to and from the Golgi by means of vesicles, which we talked about before. So here we have incoming transport vesicles and also outgoing transport vesicles.